Meanwhile, the hobbits went with as much speed as the dark and tangled forest allowed, following the line of the running stream, westward and up towards the slopes of the mountains, deeper and deeper into Fangorn. Slowly their fear of the orcs died away, and their pace slackened. Just then they became aware of a yellow light that had appeared some way further on into the wood. Shafts of sunlight seemed suddenly to have pierced the forest roof. They found it was further than they thought. The ground was rising steeply still, and it was becoming increasingly stony. The light grew broader as they went on, and soon they saw that there was a rock wall before them, the side of a hill, or the abrupt end of some long route thrust out by the distant mountains. In the face of the stony wall there was something like a stair, natural perhaps, and made by the weathering and splitting of the rock, for it was rough and uneven. High up, almost level with the tops of forest trees, there was a shelf under a cliff. Nothing grew there but a few grasses and weeds at its edge, and one old stump of a tree with only 2 bent branches left.
We didn't see him at first, and why not? We've never seen anything like Treebeard before. Except for trees, I suppose. He does look rather treeish.
This shaggy old forest looked so different in the sunlight. I almost felt I liked the place.
Almost felt you liked the forest? That's good. That's uncommonly kind of you. Turn round and let me have a look at your faces. I almost feel that I dislike you both. But do not let us be hasty.
He has a peculiar way about him, but he seemed friendly enough to us. He offered to take us to his home, or one of them. He has a few.
At once Treebeard set off with long, deliberate strides through the trees, deeper and deeper into the wood, never far from the stream, climbing steadily up towards the slopes of the mountains. Many of the trees seemed asleep or as unaware of him as of any other creature that merely passed by, but some quivered, and some raised up their branches above his head as he approached. All the while, as he walked, he talked to himself in a long-running stream of musical sounds.
In the willow meads of Tessarinon I walked in the spring. Ah, the sight and the smell of the spring in Nantasarion, and I said that was good. I wandered in summer in the elm woods of Ossiriand. Ah, the light and the music in the summer by the 7 rivers of Ossir, and I thought that was best. To the beaches of Neldareth I came in the autumn. Ah, the gold and the red and the sighing of leaves in the autumn in Taur na Neldor. It was more than my desire. To the pine trees upon the highland of Dorthonion I climbed in the winter. Ah, the wind and the whiteness and the black branches of winter upon Orod na Thorn. My voice went up and sang in the sky. And now all those lands lie under the wave, and I walk in Ambarona, in Tauramorna, in Aldalome, in my own land in the country of Fangorn, where the roots are long and the years lie thicker than the leaves, in Tauramorna Lome. There have been no Entings, no children, you would say, not for a terrible long count of years. You see, we lost the Entwives.
How very sad, said Pippin. How was it that they all died?
They did not die, said Treebeard. I never said died. We lost them, I said. We lost them and we cannot find them. There was an elvish song that spoke of this.
The Ent.
When spring unfolds the beechen leaf and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream and wind is on the brow, when stride is long and breath is deep and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair.
The Entwife. When spring is come to garth and field and corn is in the blade, when blossom like a shining snow is on the orchard laid, when shower and sun upon the earth with fragrance fill the air, I'll linger here and will not come, because my land is fair. The Ent.
When summer lies upon the world and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves the dreams of trees unfold. When woodland halls are green and cool and wind is in the west, come back to me, and say my land is best.
The Entwife. When summer warms the hanging fruit and burns the berry brown, when straw is gold and year is white and harvest comes to town, when honey spills and apple swells, though wind be in the west, I'll linger here beneath the sun, because my land is best. The Ent.
When winter comes, the winter wild that hill and wood shall slay, when trees shall fall and starless night devour the sunless day, when wind is in the deadly east and then in the bitter rain, I'll look for thee and call to thee, I'll come to thee again.
The Entwife. When winter comes and singing ends, when darkness falls at last, when broken is the barren bough and light and labour past, I'll look for thee and wait for thee until we meet again. Together we will take the road beneath the bitter rain. Both.
Together we will take the road that leads into the west, and far away we'll find a land where both our hearts may rest.
It was a rather lovely place, actually. Quite homey, in its own way. He offered us a drink that would keep us... what did he say? Green and growing for a long, long time. That was it. The drink tasted like water, but it was even better and more refreshing. A healthy sensation coursed from the hair on my toes to the hair on my head. Our conversation eventually turned to Saruman and Isengard. Treebeard decided something had to be done.
Turning to the left and skirting this huge hedge, Treebeard came in a few strides to a narrow entrance. Through it a worn path passed and dived suddenly down a long steep slope. The hobbits saw that they were descending into a great dingle, almost as round as a bowl, very wide and deep, crowned at the rim with the high dark evergreen hedge. It was smooth and grass-clad inside, and there were no trees except 3 very tall and beautiful silver birches that stood at the bottom of the bowl. 2 other paths led down into the dingle, from the west and from the east. Several Ents had already arrived.
Now, Ents take a long time to discuss things. A long time. A very long time. It seemed to us they might discuss things forever. This story is taking longer than I thought it would. Are you hungry? I have become a little peckish.
To Isengard, the Ents cried in many voices.
To Isengard, though Isengard be ringed and barred with doors of stone, though Isengard be strong and hard as cold as stone and bare as bone, we go, we go, we go to war, to hew the stone and break the door. For bowl and bough are burning now, the furnace roars, we go to war. To land of gloom with tramp of doom, with roll of drum we come, we come. To Isengard with doom we come, with doom we come, with doom we come.
So they sang as they marched southwards. The Ents went striding on at a great pace. They had descended into a long fold of the land that fell away southward. Now they began to climb up and up onto the high western ridge. The woods fell away and they came to a scattered groups of birch, and then to bare slopes where only a few gaunt pine trees grew. The sun sank behind the dark hill back in front. Grey dusk fell. Pippin looked behind. The number of the Ents had grown. Or what was happening? Where the dim bare slopes that they had crossed should lie, he thought he saw groves of trees. But they were moving. Could it be that the trees of Fangorn were awake and the forest was rising, marching over the hills to war? He rubbed his eyes, wondering if sleep and shadow had deceived him, but the great grey shapes moved steadily onward. There was a noise like wind in many branches. The Ents were drawing near the crest of the ridge now, and all song had ceased. Night fell, and there was silence. Nothing was to be heard save a faint quiver of the earth beneath the feet of the Ents, and a rustle, the shade of a whisper as of many drifting leaves. The great cleft at the end of the mountains, Nan Kuranir, the valley of Saruman,
Night lies over Isengard,
said Treebeard. I don't know how it happened, said Aragorn, but on this we may count in any case. One at least of our friends escaped. It is our task to find him and help him before we return to Rohan. We must not be daunted by Fangorn, since need drove him into that dark place. I do not know which daunts me more, Fangorn or the thought of the long road through Rohan on foot, said Gimli. Then let us go to the forest, said Aragorn. It was not long before Aragorn found fresh signs. At one point, near the bank of the Entwash, he came upon footprints, hobbit prints, but too light for much to be made of them. Then again, beneath the bole of a great tree on the very edge of the wood, more prints were discovered. The earth was bare and dry, and did not reveal much. They came at length to the steep, abrupt end of Treebeard's hill, and looked up at the rock wall with its rough steps leading to the high shelf. Gleams of sun were striking through the hurrying clouds, and the forest now looked less grey and drear. Aragorn looked and beheld a bent figure moving slowly. It was not far away. It looked like an old beggar man walking wearily, leaning on a rough staff. His head was bowed, and he did not look towards them. In other lands they would have greeted him with kind words, but now they stood silent, each feeling a strange expectancy. Something was approaching that held a hidden power or menace. Then his grey cloak drew apart, and they saw beyond doubt that he was clothed beneath all in white. "Saruman!" cried Gimli, springing towards him with axe in hand. At last Aragorn stirred. "Gandalf," he said, "beyond all hope you returned to us in our need. What veil was over my sight? Gandalf!" "Tell us what you will, and time allows," said Gimli. "Come, Gandalf, tell us how you fared with the Balrog." "Name him not," said Gandalf, and for a moment it seemed that a cloud of pain passed over his face. and he sat silent, looking old as death. "Long time I fell," he said at last, slowly, as if thinking back with difficulty. "Long I fell, and he fell with me. His fire was about me, I was burnt. Then we plunged into the deep water, and all was dark. Cold it was as the tide of death, almost it froze my heart. Deep is the abyss that is spanned by Durin's bridge, and none has measured it," said Gimli. "Yet it has a bottom beyond light and knowledge," said Gandalf. "Thither I came at last, to the uttermost foundations of stone. He was with me still. His fire was quenched, but now he was a thing of slime, stronger than a strangling snake. We fought far under the living earth, where time is not counted. Ever he clutched me, and ever I hewed him, till at last he fled into dark tunnels. They were not made by Durin's folk, Gimli son of Glóin. Far, far below the deepest delvings of the dwarves, the world is gnawed by nameless things. Even Sauron knows them not. They are older than he. Now I have walked there, but I will bring no report to darken the light of day. In that despair my enemy was my only hope, and I pursued him, clutching at his heel. Thus he brought me back at last to the secret ways of Khazad-dûm. Too well he knew them all. Ever up now we went until we came to the endless stair. Long has that been lost, said Gimli. Many have said that it was never made save in legend, but others say that it was destroyed. It was made and it had not been destroyed, said Gandalf. From the lowest dungeon to the highest peak it climbed, ascending in unbroken spiral in many thousand steps. Until it issued at last in Durin's tower, carved in the living rock of Zirak-Zigil, the pinnacle of the Silvertine. There upon Celebdul was a lonely window in the snow, and before it lay a narrow space, a dizzy eyrie above the mists of the world. The sun shone fiercely there, but all below was wrapped in cloud. Out he sprang, and even as I came behind, he burst into new flame. There was none to see, or perhaps in after ages songs would still be sung of the Battle of the Peak. Suddenly Gandalf laughed. But what would they say in song? Those that looked up from afar thought that the mountain was crowned with storm. Thunder they heard, and lightning, they said, smote upon Celebdil, and leapt back broken into tongues of fire. Is not that enough? A great smoke rose about us, vapour and steam. Ice fell like rain. I threw down my enemy, and he fell from the high place, and broke the mountainside where he smote it in his ruin. Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time, and I wandered far on roads that I will not tell. He wrapped himself again in his old tattered cloak and led the way. Following him, they descended quickly from the high shelf and made their way back through the forest, down the bank of the Entwash. They spoke no more words until they stood again upon the grass beyond the eaves of Fangorn. Gandalf spoke now to Shadowfax, and the horse set off at a good pace, yet not beyond the measure of the others. The wind went like grey waves through the endless miles of grass. There was no sign of road or track, but Shadowfax did not stay or falter. "He is steering a straight course now for the halls of Theoden under the slopes of the White Mountains," said Gandalf. "It will be quicker so. The ground is firmer in the East Emnet, where the chief northward track lies across the river, but Shadowfax knows the way through every fen and hollow." For many hours they rode on through the meads and riverlands. Often the grass was so high that it reached above the knees of the riders, and their steeds seemed to be swimming in a grey-green sea. They came upon many hidden pools and broad acres of sedge waving above wet and treacherous bogs. But Shadowfax found the way, and the other horses followed in his swathe.